What is open shade, and why does every photographer want to shoot under it? Do you? Let's find out. Welcome to my studio here in New York City. I am Daniel Norton for PPA, here with Katie. And I mentioned open shade in the beginning. Really, we're going to create our own light. So open shade is effectively the idea that when the sun is out, it's big and bright, harsh shadows everywhere, you put the subject in the shade, and that shade that is open, that is to say that the light's bouncing all around into it, creates a really beautiful, even, simple light. One way that I used to use it a lot here in New York City is, if you've ever been to New York City, you know about the scaffolding. The scaffold's everywhere. Big, bright, sunny day, you put somebody right in just scaffolding, just underneath it, and the light is just spectacular. A little bounce card, clean, you're done. However, it's a little different in the studio, because even if I can create sunlight type light, like that is hard, punchy light, the studio doesn't have what the world has, which is light bouncing around everywhere and filling in. So how do we compensate for that? How do we create that? Well, my solution here is to mimic kind of what I did, but add a little bit of flair, if you will. So I'm using two pieces of equipment here. One is a Shimera silk. This is basically a 4 foot by 4 foot piece of diffusion. It's kind of like what the front of a softbox is, maybe a little bit heavier than that. It's part of their panel frame system, and I have it suspended right over Katie's head. Don't worry, sandbag police, there's a sandbag on there. And then I'm going to use what I believe to be the closest thing to sunlight, save a Fresnel lens, which is the Profoto Magnum Reflector. Yes, I know you're going to look to see how expensive this is and you're going to faint. But you know what? You only buy it once and get it used like I did. But anyways, the Magnum Reflector creates hard light, like the sun. What we're going to do is, instead of putting her under something solid, like I would do outside, I'm putting her under diffusion so that we get a little bit more of that bounce feel. We're going to raise this Magnum up as high as it can go. The ceilings in my studio are about 10.5, 11 feet. So I'm going to bring the C-stand up all the way with the light pointed down. I'm going to kill the lights in the space, save for the modeling light here so you can kind of see where it is before we start. So let me do that. Ooh, it's very dark and mysterious in here now. All right, so the reason why I'm doing this is so you guys can kind of see where the light is as it's going up. Okay, so we've got the modeling light on. Again, for people who are going to question, this is an older Profoto, so the modeling light is warm. That's why it looks warm in the thing. The flash is still daylight or neutral. Okay, so I know I'm a silhouette, but we can see now the scrim itself is lit, and then also you should be able to see the ground a bit is lit in front of her. So we have some bounce, although we're going to use more bounce than that. We also have like a slice against the background. A bigger silk or putting her closer to the background would help with that. So let's turn the lights back on so you guys can see what's going on, because they're not really going to affect us at all. Okay, lights are back on, lights in position. Now we're going to do some test shots. I'm going to use TTL because I think that's just the simplest way to go with this. And we're going to take a few shots, that way you see what's going on. I'm going to kill this modeling light now to save my battery, since I don't need it anymore. And focusing on her eye, we take our first shot. We can see, no, unfortunately it made her blink. Well, that's what happens sometimes. Well, we shoot another one for good luck. All right. So now we can see basically what we have here. It's kind of a overall soft-ish light. We can see how soft it is. It's kind of a bit dead in the eyes though, right? It's kind of a little dull, but we can definitely see where the light's coming from. This is not bad in and of itself, but I think we can make it better. In fact, I know we can, because the same thing I would do outside is what we're going to do here. We're going to use a reflector. This is just a simple piece of foam board. When I used to do a lot of headshots, I would tape two of these together and create like a V, but I don't have one right now. So we're just going to use one. Actually, I will turn the modeling light back on just so you guys can see. One thing that also is interesting here is, depending on how you normally work, if you're working with like a beauty dish real close for beauty reflector, you might put the card like this. In this case, we're going to want to tilt it up like this because we want to catch that light and throw it back up underneath in kind of a glamorous fashion. I'm going to bring it in. Take a half step back. There you go. We bounce it in, and boom. We can see we now get this beautiful washed kind of glamour look, right? Really, really simple, right? This is effectively, when people tell you to shoot on cloudy days, that's what you get. That's with the reflector. This is one of those types of lighting that reflectors really make a difference. I mean, it really gunned up the exposure, and it gave us that flat, almost shadowless, that word, but light. You still need to shoot with somebody with relatively good skin, like not lots of pimples and stuff, because you might pick up something from the top light, but you can see how smooth the skin is though. I mean, it's basically gonna help anybody whose skin is like normal to flawless. If you've got bad skin, you might wanna use a little bit more of a softer diffuser, but I have a quarter stop on here, so it's good. All right, let's shoot a few more. And we can see. Okay. Good. Good. When you look this side like that, I think of the Bengals, walk like an Egyptian. I'll probably get sued by the Bengals. Really project your face. That's it, that's it, that's it. Nice and simple, right? Clean, 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 easy. And when you have such a clean light, you can take your time and just kind of work your way through it. Katie has a lot of room to move around, right? It's pretty even. The light is simple. And, you know, we didn't use any kind of a separation light or anything, but because as you can see on the background, more light, that, by the way, that weird shadow on the background is from my constant light that's lighting the space. You can see that half the space is cut off. So some of the naked light, if you will, from the Magnum Reflector is reaching the background, which is making the background brighter than it normally would be. And so we're getting a little bit of pop and separation from that. We really have a lot of options here with a single light. Again, you could use any number of ways to separate or even more, but I think this works really, really well for a nice, clean, simple headshot that's all about the subject. It's not about your lighting, or in this case, my lighting. It's about the subject. It's direct interaction with the subject. It's great for people that are kind of, that need to be guided a bit because you're close to them, as you can see, but it's also great for people that are experienced that can just work their way through it because the light just allows them to move around. So I need to take a couple more because I can't help myself, and then we're going to be done. But you know what? We're going to do something. This is probably not going to work, but we're going to do it anyways because sometimes it's worth trying something. I'm using a white reflector because I feel like with the Magnum, anything other than a white is going to be way too much, but sometimes a little specularity can add glamour. So let me see if we use a silver reflector. So this is a matte silver reflector. This is likely going to be too much. But you never know until you try. Okay. And if it's perfect, we'll just cut out the part where I said it was going to be too much. Oh, interesting. In some ways, it's flatter. Now, the reason for that is that the silver reflector is going to be, you can actually see it popping in our eye. The silver reflector is going to be less even than the white reflector. So in some ways, we're getting actually less light here. I think I'm going to give it a little bit of a boost. Bring it up like this. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. Now, I think some people, this catch light might be too much for them. But if that doesn't bother you, the silver is really nice. You can see the difference here. Silver, white. You know, let me know in the comments below which one you like. But you can see the silver kind of cleans the face up a little bit more, makes it a little bit more snappy. Both really work. Both are very glamorous. But I think the silver is kind of a winner. Let's shoot a couple of silver. I think I like silver with you. See that? I said it wasn't going to work. Well, I thought it would. I knew all along it was going to work. It's a YouTube trick. Like whenever you see a thumbnail that says, does this, whatever, you already know. Nobody's really questioning that. Nice. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, do all the YouTube stuff, check the description, leave a comment. Here's Katie. I'm Daniel. We're here for PPA. We'll see you soon.